Ron Howard's life began under circumstances few children experience, and even fewer truly understand. Born Ronald William Howard on March 1, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, he entered a family already navigating the unpredictable rhythms of acting work. His parents, Rance and Jean Howard, were hardworking performers who followed opportunity wherever it appeared, eventually settling in California as television expanded rapidly in the 1950s. From an early age, Ron became familiar with studio lots, scripts, and adult conversations that replaced many ordinary childhood routines. While his upbringing was loving and structured, it unfolded in an environment where work and home blended seamlessly. Education often happened in studio classrooms, friendships came and went with productions, and responsibility arrived early. Ron later reflected that while he never felt unloved, he grew up faster than most children, learning discipline and focus long before he understood how unusual his world truly was, becoming America's beloved son. By the age of 6, Ron Howard stepped into a role that would shape his public identity for decades. Cast as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show, he became a familiar presence in millions of homes across America. Viewers embraced him as the embodiment of innocence and warmth, a reflection of simpler times and family values. Behind the scenes, Ron worked under firm but caring guidance, learning professionalism at an age when most children were just beginning school. While the show brought stability and recognition, it also defined him in ways that were difficult to escape. He balanced education requirements with long filming days and learned to navigate attention without fully understanding its permanence. As the series progressed, Ron sensed that the character audiences loved so deeply might one day make it harder for them to see him as anything else. Fame, and the quiet weight of expectation. Growing up in the public eye carried pressures that were rarely visible to viewers. Ron Howard often found himself surrounded by adults rather than peers, expected to behave with maturity beyond his years. While fans adored him, childhood remained structured and closely supervised. Simple freedoms other children took for granted were limited by schedules and responsibilities. Outside the studio, recognition could be confusing rather than comforting, as classmates sometimes struggled to see him as anything other than a television character. Ron later acknowledged that fame gave him security, but it also shaped his identity before he had the chance to define it himself. The expectations placed upon him were rarely spoken aloud, yet always present. Even at a young age, he understood that his success carried responsibility, and that letting others down felt far heavier than the workload itself. Adolescence in the shadow of a childhood role. As Ron entered his teenage years, the challenge became less about working and more about growing. Audiences still associated him strongly with Opie Taylor, and casting opportunities narrowed accordingly. He faced an industry that admired his past but hesitated to imagine his future. Attempts to branch into new roles were met with mixed results, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on his confidence. Like many young actors, he questioned whether he could evolve beyond what had made him famous. The cancellation of projects felt deeply personal, even when circumstances were beyond his control. During this period, Ron leaned heavily on family support, especially his parents, who emphasized education and perspective. Though discouraged at times, he continued forward, quietly determined to build a life defined by choice rather than nostalgia. Happy Days and a turning point. In 1974, Ron Howard found renewed success as Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, a role that reintroduced him to audiences in a new era. The show became a cultural phenomenon, offering stability and visibility once again. Yet even as the series thrived, Ron sensed that acting alone might not satisfy his long-term ambitions. While grateful for the opportunity, he became increasingly curious about the creative decisions happening behind the camera. This curiosity led him to enroll at the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts, where he discovered a deeper passion for storytelling itself. Studying film theory, structure, and direction gave him a sense of creative control he had never experienced before. For the first time, Ron began imagining a future shaped not by typecasting, but by vision. Stepping behind the camera, Ron Howard's transition into directing marked a defining chapter in his life. In 1982, he made his directorial debut with Night Shift, proving he could lead a production with clarity and confidence. While the film's success was modest, it earned respect within the industry. 2 years later, Splash exceeded expectations, becoming a major commercial hit and firmly establishing Ron as a director with broad appeal. Co-founding Imagine Entertainment with Brian Grazer further expanded his influence, allowing him to develop projects rooted in character and emotion. Rather than chasing spectacle, Ron focused on storytelling that felt human and accessible. His directing style reflected lessons learned from his childhood, preparation, collaboration, and respect for every role on set. Slowly but steadily, he reshaped his identity from former child actor to accomplished filmmaker. Success, responsibility, and personal cost. As Ron Howard's career flourished, the demands on his time intensified. Projects like Cocoon, Willow, and Backdraft required long hours and constant attention. Professional success brought pride, but it also required sacrifice. Balancing work with family life became an ongoing challenge, one he navigated with intention, but not without strain. Ron often spoke candidly about the effort required to remain present at home while meeting industry expectations. His wife, Cheryl, provided steady support, grounding their family through periods of intense workload. Even during peak success, Ron remained aware that achievement could not replace connection. This awareness influenced his later choices, pushing him toward projects that aligned with both his creative values and his desire for a sustainable life beyond the studio. Career peaks and emotional challenges. The release of Apollo 13 in 1995 marked one of the highest points in Ron Howard's career. The film received critical acclaim, multiple Academy Award nominations, and widespread audience admiration. Yet success did not insulate him from personal challenges. During this period, Ron faced concerns about his family's health and well-being, particularly as loved ones encountered their own struggles. These moments reinforced a truth he had learned gradually. Professional achievement does not prevent life's difficulties. Instead, it often magnifies the need for perspective. Ron leaned into family bonds, valuing honesty and communication. While his career continued to reach new heights with films like A Beautiful Mind, he approached each milestone with humility, aware that fulfillment came not from accolades alone, but from resilience and shared experience, family, reflection, and perspective. As time passed, Ron Howard's focus shifted increasingly toward reflection and balance. He experienced loss, witnessed recovery, and learned the limits of control despite success. These experiences shaped his understanding of what truly mattered. Family became his anchor, offering grounding amid change. Watching his children grow into their own identities brought a sense of fulfillment distinct from professional acclaim. Ron also embraced mentorship, supporting younger filmmakers and contributing quietly to charitable causes. He never framed his journey as hardship, but as education shaped by circumstance. Looking back, he acknowledged both the privileges and pressures of his upbringing, choosing gratitude over regret. Each chapter of his life added depth to his work, allowing him to tell stories with empathy earned through lived experience rather than imagination alone. A life defined by endurance and purpose today, Ron Howard stands as an example of longevity built on adaptability and integrity. His success was not the result of effortless momentum, but of continuous reinvention and self-awareness. From child actor to director, producer, husband, and father, each role required growth. He learned to step beyond public perception and define his own measure of success. Wealth and recognition followed, but they never became the goal. Instead, Ron values peace, curiosity, and connection. His story reminds us that lasting fulfillment rarely arrives in dramatic moments, but in quiet consistency. It is found in choosing purpose over pressure, balance over approval, and persistence over fear. Ron Howard's life is not a tale of perfection, but of endurance, and in that honesty lies its greatest strength.